Morning, boys and girls of AP. That sound you hear in the background is your reassurance that the Keurig is working just fine. After all, coffee is one of the perks of AP. And now on to today's lecture, Mark Twain's advice to youth, which I hope you realized was satirical. Otherwise, your grandmothers may be in danger. Let's get to the text. We're back here. I worked with the lighting a little bit so that hopefully we can see the comments a little bit better, although they do look like they're not showing up on the camera. So let's tinker with it a little more. Maybe this will actually help. Ha! Lo and behold, it helps a little bit. So I'll bring up, I've got a nice little camera here that's focused right on the actual comments, and it looks like it's reversed again. So there we go. That's much better. Okay, so now we've got it more focused. All right, so I'll make sure the letters work right. Okay, so we're going to start off. Let me get the mouse here. Maddie Gill had a very good point at the beginning. She said he's already beginning to speak with somewhat of an informal tone. Makes it seem as if he's having a conversation directly with the audience. Helps keep them engaged. And then Piper said, when we are young is when we learn many of life's most valuable lessons. And so much can happen in this time of our lives that can cause us to be successful or to fail. That positive influence is so important. And what a beautiful setup it is. It's a big old delay. Like many of the jokes in his speech, it's a big old delay. Because the first thing he says, boys and girls, is always, oh, wait a minute. First piece of advice for the girls and for the boys, always obey your parents when they are present. So, when your parents are there, obey them. And when they're not, just make like little Uzi Vert and do what you want. Otherwise, they will make you. Aiden said, realize when resistance is futile and concede with family. What a great point from Aiden as usual. Disobeying your parents is not a good idea because they're going to figure it out. And if they figure it out, you're going to be in trouble. So you might as well just obey them when they're there, and when they're not there, you do whatever you want. Okay? Another point that somebody brought up, most parents think they know better than you do. Now, we've all heard the okay boomer lines or whatever, but most parents think they know better than you. And you can make more by humoring that superstition than by acting on your better judgment. So he acknowledges that your judgment is better than their judgment. Okay? Your judgment's better. But if they're around, all you're going to do is get in more trouble. He's obviously, as Audrina points out, obviously being satirical and contradicting what we're normally told to do. And Peyton views it, now I'll zoom in here so you can see it, that she agrees with this in some aspects, but every experience is different for every individual. So some things I don't think parents understand from how we experience it. And that's very, look out, that's very true. Sometimes, I'm going to step out of the frame for a little bit. Sometimes parents don't understand, so just go along with them. Because if you don't go along with them, you're going to get in trouble, and that's the key to life, is not getting in trouble, apparently, with your folks. He says, be respectful to your superiors if you have any. In other words, you might be the superior. You might be the one who knows everything, or you can at least act like you do, which we'll get that with lying later. Carter says, only appease them when they ask or are around you. So when you're around authority figures, just, appease them. Let them feel like they're being respected. But you don't really have to respect them, according to If you have any. As Eric pointed out, he would agree. But usually only if the respect is warranted. Sometimes superiors pull the disrespectful card whenever gaps in logic and judgment are pointed out, which is ridiculous. And Eric's exactly right, which is exactly what Mark Twain's trying to say here, which is that be respectful if you have any. If not, treat them however you want. So Eric, if you're in a situation where somebody accuses you of being disrespectful just because you so happen to be right, well, maybe when they're around, humor them, but still maintain your viewpoint. Don't compromise your logic to somebody else's inferior view. We have the example of the brick. Casey said, but you did mean to. Acknowledge it like a man, hit him like a brick, and say you didn't mean to do it. This is pure genius already. The satirical tone enhanced by the unexpected statements. And I love the delayed reaction. If someone offends you, don't go out and smash your flat screen TV. Don't do something that rash. If you don't like the outcome of something, don't go standing on the street corner screaming, why? Be reasonable. Be rational, okay? Grab a brick or a bottle of hand sanitizer and hit him with it. Now, I hope by posting this bottle of hand sanitizer, which is almost empty, on the internet, I'm not going to have somebody raiding my room for it. Okay, I also have the cowfish, a thesaurus, and a Nerf gun. More on that later. The anecdote here. Go to bed early and train a lark to wake you up. You'll get up at 9:30 every single time. Note the irony there. You'll be sleeping in. Jacob Crossman had a very difficult time with this. He gets up at 4 a.m. every day. So some of you don't go to bed till 4. Jay said the workouts I've been having have been following this idea. Work out twice a day, go to bed early, get up before 8, and hit the garage. Okay? And I say, yeah, well, Twain says sleep in, lie to everyone, and be just like everybody else that way. So Jay is more diligent than Mark Twain wants him to be. So props to Jay on that. Next, as to lying, this is really the biggest focus of his speech so far. When it comes to lying, you don't want to do it if you're gonna get caught. As Jacob pointed out, Bill Clinton. Okay, I'm sorry, I coughed into my hand. Sorry about that. Let's go sanitize now. Whoop, some of it flew out there. Okay. You want to be careful about lying. Otherwise, you'll get caught. Not that you'll become a dishonest person, or not that people won't trust you. Oh, man, you lied and got caught. You shouldn't have got caught. That's Mark Twain's satirical advice. As Searles pointed out, so it's okay to lie as long as you don't get caught lying? Yes. Well, lying can make people feel anxious. I think Twain's response would be, if lying makes you feel anxious, you need to practice and get better at it. Okay? You know, like Shaq with his foul shots. Once caught, you can never again be what you were. Carter says that the risk of telling a lie is very high. But the truth may not be as successful as telling a lie that can't be uncovered. So Carter is like Mark Twain here. Okay, if Mark Twain were here, he'd rise out of the grave, and like Eric Green, he would give Carter a hearty handshake. Okay? Carter's saying that telling a lie that can't be uncovered is better than telling the truth. I just hope his folks aren't watching this video. Many a young person has injured himself permanently through a clumsy and ill-finished lie. Jaden says lying isn't necessarily a good thing, but a white lie or a half-truth is helpful. Jaden then gives some advice on how to lie and be successful. Practical, it's facts. Always have a planned way of going about your lie, according to Jaden Missler. And expect the unexpected when being confronted by your parents. In other words, expect to have questions come up that you didn't think of, so that you can get out of that situation, so that you can maintain that lie. And again, this is satirical advice. Why? What's the occasion? A couple people had the word exigence in their commentary. The exigence here is he's giving a graduation speech at an all-girls school for an 8th grade class. Their rich parents are there. Their faculty is there. The teachers are there. And the administration is there. And they invited Mark Twain to this rich 8th grade private school graduation ceremony for all girls up in New England because he lives near there at the time. And they think, oh, this will enhance our standing. We will have a prominent speaker. He will be proper. They thought they were getting Sam the American Eagle. Instead, they got Mark Twain, telling kids to lie, to only obey your parents when they're around, and to humor them and just flatter them when they're there, and then do whatever you want when you're on your own, and think whatever you want when you're on your own, and never handle fire alarms harmlessly. That's his next piece of advice. Be temperate in the art of lying. That's what he does here. And he's ridiculing the entire context of a graduation speech. You want me to give these kids wholesome, practical advice for the real world? Good. I'll teach them to lie. I'll teach them to steal. I'll teach them to be dishonest. I'll teach them to be disingenuous. And then when they're done, they'll be just like you. Just like every other lying, stealing, conniving adult in the world. That's Mark Twain's view. I had a teacher, an education professor one time, that said, I don't understand why we get so disappointed when children lie to us. Where do you think they learned it from? They learned it from adults. They learned it from our parents. It's kind of like when Ralphie gets caught saying the dirty word. And his mom asked Schwartz's mom, poor Schwartz, poor Schwartz, okay, asked the mom where he heard it from. He says he probably heard it from his father, which is actually true, okay, because this old man painted in profanities like some artists paint with oils and pastels. But back to the lying, okay, he says be temperate in the use of this great art. Katie had a reaction to that. She said, I'd be lying if I said I didn't lie. Although I think it's necessary sometimes, but still a bad thing. This guy talks about it like he's proud of it, like it's a good thing. He even calls it an art. That's exactly right, Sories. That's exactly right. You need to practice the art of lying if you want to be a successful adult in society in 1882. And if you think about 1882, you think of the robber barons, you think of the carpetbaggers, you think of segregation, you think of Jim Crow. Haven't adults made lying into an art form? And maybe there's a little bit of tragedy worked into this satire a little bit. You know, maybe he's not so much trying to get these kids to learn how to lie, but maybe he's trying to get these adults to rethink the way they live their lives. Good luck with that. You need practice. Will pointed out that he just watched Ocean's 11, and it reminds him of that movie. They lie their way into the vault of a casino and steal $160 million. So lying does pay off. That's much better than the Penguins when they get into Fort Knox just to get some cheesy dibbles for private. Stealing $160 million from a casino vault by lying, apparently, according to Will, that pays off. And I think Twain would agree with it. Those guys in Ocean's 11 must have been very, very good at lying. And Will, if you like that movie, might I suggest Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Piper, when he talks about lying being profitable, she likes how he describes lying as something that's typically wrong and should rarely be done, as a great art. So take that, Katie. However, he is right. When people are experienced in lying, they're able to lie with grace and profit. So that piggybacks off of what Will said. When you're practiced at it, it's almost graceful, to the point that the lie has a better chance of being immortal than the truth, which is exactly what Twain points out later. Brianna had a great comment on here. Truth is mighty and will prevail. The most majestic compound factor effect. The biggest lie in the world is that truth will prevail. We know that doesn't happen. Go study the 1960 or the 1972 presidential elections. You know that doesn't happen. The idea that truth will prevail is a lie in and of itself, according to Brianna and according to Twain. People will always resort to lies and deceit to protect themselves or to make like that one rapper and get what they want. And if they're good enough at it, the truth of their lies will never seem to come out. In fact, their lies will become the truth if they're really, really good at it. That's something that Hagler did a very good job pointing out. Another comment here from Eric. That truth is mighty is the biggest lie. Says, I'll remember this quote for the rest of my life. I'm glad that Mark Twain had such a lasting effect. Jacob connected it to Hitler. And I want to say, if Carter's watching this, not even Carson did that. Hitler himself said, if you tell a lie enough, the people will eventually believe it. That's true, unfortunately. Okay? Look at Abraham Lincoln. Everybody portrays him as a staunch abolitionist. We like to see Abraham Lincoln almost like a John Brown type figure, but without the he did kind of have a dysfunctional family, but without the storming of a munitions store and whatnot. Abraham Lincoln was anything but an abolitionist in the 1840s and 1850s. He was for the Union, whatever it took to preserve the Union. If that meant having slavery everywhere, then we have slavery everywhere. If that meant freeing the slaves, that meant freeing the slaves. But we've made Lincoln almost into this Moses-like figure. And that's a lie. And it's not Lincoln's fault. It's the historian's fault. One of the biggest problems we have in writing today is revisionist history. I tell the story about when I was in France. They believe that de Gaulle liberated France. What'd he do? Storm all 6 beaches at once on June 6th? No. Okay. That was the British, that was the Canadians, that was the Americans. I think it was 5 beaches, not 6. My bad. But that's revisionist history. You know, in Saving Private Ryan, de Gaulle isn't there. But the French are taught that he liberated them. There's even a movie on it where the guy who plays Archie Bunker, Carroll O'Connor, says, de Gaulle, he ain't even in this war. And that was a joke, that de Gaulle was in exile in England while the Americans and the Brits and the Canadians and the Russians were doing the fighting for them. And that shows, you know, if you spread a lie far enough, people will think it's the truth. Gil brings up the monument to help further emphasize the immortality of lies. The statue is still around. It hasn't been taken down. Even in an era in the 21st century where we're taking down statues left and right, we're deleting them left and right, that one's still up, even though it's based on a lie. Because it's just much harder work to get the truth out there at this point. Although Mark Twain is helping. Jane says, when your lie is broken up and lacks a strong storyline, the people you're trying to convince will lose trust in you. So it's like a movie. And it just makes everyone awkward from that point on. So again, Jaden is with Mark Twain here. You got to be practical. You got to be a good liar. Okay? Final word, begin your practice of this gracious and beautiful art. Begin it now. And Fidget says, if you can read people well enough, you know what's necessary to get around them with a lie. Look at that in the Odyssey. How many times does he lie his way out of situations? In fact, now he's in the manor. He's in the house. He's in his own house, and he's living a lie as a beggar. But it's okay because the suitors don't deserve honesty, apparently. Using lies in a limited manner is essential to be a good person. Such ironic advice here. You know, lying in a limited fashion, okay, you know, is essential to becoming a good person. Going right along with Mark Twain's satire. Then he tells the story about the guns. Justin had a comment Although it's satirical, this is factual. Lying represents a deprivation in character and makes opinions of you seem less enticing because honesty was seemingly not the best policy. And that's exactly Twain's point. If being honest is going to make you look bad, you might as well save your reputation and tell a good lie, as long as what Jaden points out is a strong storyline so you don't get caught. Ren pointed out with the anecdote, it went nowhere. To add to the irony, he's obviously not being serious here. And he says, Elias says it seems like a huge letdown to such a dramatic story. Exactly. Alex made a good point. Idiot savants and blind luck tend to favor chaos and the worst possible outcome. No one is immune to entropy. Okay, that's sort of negative growth. I think it's a very philosophical comment about a highly informal anecdote from Mark Twain here. That all this proves is that in life, idiocy sometimes, or maybe most of the time, reigns supreme. That's a scary comment. That's a dark comment that Twain is making. And I like Alec really picking up on that in a highly philosophical manner. Something Will added here. And of course, one thing I want to talk about with the gun example. Accidental shooting deaths were a problem back then. They're still a problem today. And yet Mark Twain uses this as an opportunity to bring humor and make a joke. And I think that tells us more about Twain the person and Twain the author than anything else. That no topic is off limits. Absolutely nothing is sacred to him, which if you're going to be an effective satiricist, nothing really is sacred. The books question, Will said, it's not free real estate, it's free advertising for Twain. But he is right. If you force children to read bad or uninteresting books at a young age, they will dislike reading in the future. There are some books that I was assigned when I was in middle school that the teacher absolutely loved. And a few of the girls loved them too. But most of us couldn't relate to them, or they weren't very well written. And it turned me off to reading. And finally, my freshman year in college, I got to read stuff like the Aeneid and the Iliad and the Odyssey. And remember, there was a turning point where this guy in the Aeneid gets shot through the mouth with an arrow. And it comes out the back of his head, and his brainstem is dangling off the arrow shaft. And it was at that point that I fell in love with literature. That I really felt that reading rainbow come alive inside my heart and inside my brain, which was still in my head, not dangling from an arrow shaft. So it's a little bit on Will's comment. I think he's exactly right. We got to find books, and we have them. You know, like the Canterbury Tales. Everybody complains how boring the Canterbury Tales. Read the Miller's Tale. It's about farting. I'm sure if we study the Miller's Tale, more people will be interested in it, okay? And they might even make a joyful noise. Couple comments at the end here from Will Whitley. These aren't the morals which are ideally taught, but these are the morals which are seen ever in the world. The whole point of Twain's speech, given his exigence of this graduation circumstance, is that this isn't to tell you the ideal morals, like what Plato would have you believe, or what you'd hear in the Sermon on the Mount, or what you might read from the Harivansa. This isn't to exalt simplicity, like Henry David Thoreau did, or nature, as Ralph Waldo Emerson did. This is to tell you what the world is like, and if you do this, if you learn how to lie, if you learn how to be dishonest, if you learn how to be irresponsible and get away with it, you'll be just like all the adults you're about to join. Boy, there's a biting, satirical point to be made there. And I wonder if maybe he's jabbing at the faculty. Maybe he's jabbing at the administration. These people who said, we're going to get a famous person to make our school and ourselves, whatever. We're going to get a famous person to enhance our status. And he just literally burned them to the ground. Alec pointed out, circa 1882, good God, this could have been written yesterday. And that's the point. Eric said in one of his comments, there's nothing new under the sun. And this is no exception to that. And what I love about this, these are all student comments. This whole explanation, this whole lecture has been driven by nothing but student comments. One thing I do want to call attention to, I'm not sure, it's in the paragraph on lying. Okay, so now it's to the matter of lying. Let's see here. Okay. Be temperate in the practice. You need confidence, elegance, and precision. Those are the keys to a good lie. I highlighted it on here. Confidence, elegance, and precision. If you want to be good at lying, you have to be confident, you have to be specific, and you have to be elegant. You have to have a formality to it, which is the same with writing. You know, I've said before, writing is the elevated art of lying, especially like if you're a lawyer or something. And then he also says patience, diligence, and painstaking attention to detail. The more detailed you are, but with painstaking approach, so that you're not just putting in a whole bunch of details that nobody can believe. You know, like Kim Jong-un saying he shot 18 on an 18-hole course. He got a hole-in-one on 18 holes in a row. Or some of the other lies that they spread in North Korea from a digestive standpoint. He says the truth is not hard to kill. A lie well told is immortal. I love the antithesis there. I love the juxtaposition. It mocks his own appeals. And it's a metaphor that he invites you to fervently dissect. And at the end of that paragraph, he says, might as well tell the truth, be done with it. As if the truth is like some last-ditch scenario. So that's Mark Twain's advice to youth. I think by now the coffee in the back is ready. I'm going to go take a look at the video and make sure I'm not too far in the shadows on the projection. I'm going to post this to Facebook, post this to YouTube, and it'll be 10 bonus points if you respond with notes. Thank you, and have a beautiful, wonderful, joyous day of isolation. I hope you enjoy the next calamity work or digital work assignment, and I'm totally not lying when I say that. Thank you and have a good day.